Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly, and I'm here with Maestro Larry Lowe, and we are so excited to be sitting down today with Rachel Koeth, our principal bassoonist, to talk about our upcoming casual concert, Your Favorite Things. Larry, why don't you just tell everyone what is on the program?
So this is a program that is with three different composers that were all the most popular, most favorite composers that were submitted during our survey time. Those composers, just to start off, are Mozart, Bach, Beethoven. We celebrated Beethoven's 250th last year. He's still popular 251 years after his birth. Our audience picked these composers, and then we picked pieces that we could perform that are within the size that we're allowed to get together. So we're opening with the Mozart Serenade, number 11, E flat major, which is for eight instruments. And we'll hear a little more about that with when I get Rachel on. And then after that, the Bach double concerto, which is how it's known, but it's the concerto for two violins. Really, really popular piece. One of my favorites. I grew up with this piece, surrounded by it, and really excited that we are featuring two of our own. You'll get to talk to them in a little bit. And then in the second half of our program, we have the Beethoven Sextet. So that is six instruments, two horns, and a string quartet. And it is a really amazing piece. And I'm super excited about it, in particular, just because it's such a highlight for our musicians, especially our horns that play a huge role in that piece. So this is Your Favorite Things. We're excited that the audience has chosen these composers, and let's talk a little more about these pieces.
Yeah, let's take it right over to Larry and Rachel Koeth, our principal bassoonist.
Hello, I'm very excited to have Rachel Koeth, our principal bassoon. Rachel, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
I was not surprised by the three favorites because they're universally loved: Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven. And in the second half, we have the Beethoven Sextet, and I just think it's a kind of blessing in disguise that we're able to present all this unusual chamber music as a part of our regular series. But you participated in the performance, or are participating tonight, in the Mozart Serenade number 11, the E flat major. And these serenades are so delightful. The most famous one is the Eine kleine Nachtmusik for all strings. And I think the thing that resonates with people with serenades, and maybe you could tell me how it feels to you, but there's a lightness, that these are not overly heavy. In fact, all five movements are all in E flat major, all of them. So there's this feeling of that there's a little less tension and a little more fun. How is it as a performer to you?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I love Mozart. He's definitely my top favorite composer. So I was really excited to be able to rehearse this piece and for the performance. And I think the minuets are just really extra light and not so heavy. The first movement's a little bit of kind of every character going on, but still pretty upbeat.
Yeah, one thing about this piece, it's an E flat. E flat kind of has a special place with composers like Beethoven and Mozart. Mozart later in his life wrote Magic Flute, which opens kind of similarly to the Serenade, with these E flat chords. And Beethoven thought of it as this heroic key. So there's always this kind of triumphantness and happiness and upbeat kind of feeling with this key. And Mozart totally delivers in the Serenade. From what I understand, it originally didn't have oboes, and then he added oboes, which is the version that you do. So so the audience knows what to expect, there are two clarinets, two bassoons, two horns, and two oboes, which were later added, and that's the version that we're performing tonight. Sometimes the bassoon has a role of being kind of like the harmonic fundamental part of the basis, the foundation of the piece. But with Mozart and the Serenade, I feel like the part that you play is much more virtuosic and it has much more activity and spotlight.
Definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of chop chop kind of moments. And then with second clarinet, especially some frantic arpeggios and 16th notes, bada, 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 kind of an energetic voice. Yeah, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place from laying down a little bit of the bottom for the adagio to popping in with some pretty technical runs.
What is it like performing? I know we talked about this a little bit, but this is a completely different setup from the last time we talked about playing chamber music with your colleagues. They say that playing chamber music is the best way for you to get to know and work with your colleagues on the stage, because you have to have these direct connections across the stage. And of course, we're a little more socially distanced now. What are some of the challenges and what, some of the rewards of that process for you in performing chamber music? Because, and I will add, we left it kind of open when we were planning this program because we didn't know what sort of restrictions we'd be under, and symphony musicians are to be applauded by kind of last minute changes and flexibility in repertoire. And so we're trying to keep it small within this, you know, we have 8 players on the stage for this. So what are some of the challenges of, I guess, the last minuteness of some of the things and the distancing, but also some of the rewards?
Well, it's my first time playing it, performing it. So to get the music, like, hey guys, we're playing this, I'm like, great, I would love to play Serenade number 11. So that was, I guess, a small challenge. If you don't really know what's going to be coming down the pipe exactly, that makes it exciting. And the distance from being a little farther away, it does make it harder to really read people's gestures and cues from across the stage. So we had like a conversation like, hey, can you just do this super big, because I know you're doing it normal, but it just has to get across from first clarinet all the way to like second horn. That's probably like the largest spread of how far away things are. So I don't know, it's like 20 feet or 30 feet. It's pretty far.
Which is, yeah, much further than you would normally be. Yeah, so just tell the audience a little bit about that. You mentioned like making a big cue or a gesture or a big breath. What are the ways that you negotiate that during rehearsal? And is everyone kind of expecting like, oh, we're all going to look at Alan for this spot, we're all going to look at Rachel for this spot, and she's going to do this? Or what? Just so people can watch for that, because I think that if you don't play chamber music, how are people playing together? How does that work?
Yeah, without the conductor there, then you usually it's first oboe Eduardo or first clarinet Alan, who kind of like gives the tempo and kind of gives a nod so we can all breathe together and feel the pulse together, kind of like a prep. And then there's a few times after a fermata in the first movement where then second clarinet gives, and that's the arpeggio bada 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 kind of part. So it changes around who you're gonna look to, or I mean, it's kind of hard when you're playing the bassoon to turn so much because I'm kind of strapped down with the bottom of my boot of my bassoon to my seat strap. So there's a little bit of a challenge of physically not being able to, you know, turn my neck around without having to hold up my entire heavy instrument. But yeah, we work it all out in rehearsal of who we're going to zone in on, who has the melody and who's leading that particular section.
I think that there's something that people don't realize about musicians when they're playing in ensemble or playing in orchestra, that in general, there's an amazing sense of peripheral vision, you know, that you can sense people's motion and their breath without looking right at them. In the same way that I hope as a conductor, if you're looking at your music, that you can peripherally still see certain gestures without needing to directly look, which is this question a lot of people will ask, like, how, you know, what are you doing up there? Because no one's looking at you. But my hope is that people are still peripherally aware of what's happening. And at certain junctures, just like you're talking about, we'll look at Eduardo for this, we'll look at Alan for this, that we have these sort of agreed upon junctures where we will be a little extra vigilant, and everywhere else there's this peripheral awareness of where everyone is. And I think what you're describing is why chamber music with your colleagues in an orchestra is so great for, moving forward and playing in the full orchestra, because you're getting to know each other even more intimately in this way. So for our last minute, why don't you just update the audience on how things are going for you, and what are some of the things you've been doing besides practicing to keep yourself occupied?
Well, I am a crazy bunny lady, so I hang out a lot with my rabbits, Cow and Bear. And I've been getting out to Erie Canal and going on some walks. I hadn't been to the Camillus Erie Canal site before. Going to Green Lakes and walking around and getting lots of takeout.
Excellent. That sounds great. Well, we look forward to the Mozart tonight. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.